Hi everybody, Miss Scavone here, and I'm going to give you the lowdown on the magic formula for a successful historical DBQ essay. So here's my thoughts on the topic. I think that writing a 5-paragraph essay, whether it be for English, for history, for a DBQ, it's very similar to completing a math problem using something like the quadratic formula or Pythagorean theorem. Right? So in math, you get different problems or numbers, but once you know how to use them in the quadratic formula, even though it's a different problem you're facing each time, once you know the quadratic formula, you should be able to successfully solve it every time, even though it's a different problem. And the more times you work with the quadratic formula and solve a problem using it, the easier it gets. Same thing here in our standard 5-paragraph essay, whether it's English or history. If you follow the standard formula or outline for a 5-paragraph essay, you can take any essay prompt or question. It could be something about science, it could be something about history, whatever. You can take that essay question and write a well-organized essay, as long as you're following the standard formula. So let's take a look at what this standard formula or outline is for a 5-paragraph essay. We know that the 5-paragraph essay, and this is available on Canvas in my announcements from today. So we know that the 5-paragraph essay, paragraph 1 is the introduction. And then you have your 3 body paragraphs. Body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, body paragraph 3. In each of these, you are just discussing your main arguments or main points that you are making in your essay. And then finally, your 5th paragraph is just the conclusion. So that's the basic outline. I'm going to go back in a sec and give you kind of the specific structure within each paragraph, kind of sentence by sentence, really. But first, I want to go back here. So what makes a DBQ different from your standard English 5-paragraph essay, right? DBQ essay is the document-based question in history. It's still a 5-paragraph essay, and it still follows this general 5-paragraph structure and outline, but how you're using your evidence in the 3 main body paragraphs is a little bit different than what you'd be doing in English or any other kind of writing. So in our class, and even more specifically in English class, if you think back to that 5-paragraph essay, you're probably used to writing your 3 main body paragraphs and using evidence from a database like Gale or some scholarly sources you're just finding online and Googling, or from a book you're reading in English, etc. Right? So you are used to having to go out and research, find your sources, find your evidence, and then put it in your body paragraphs. The DBQ is set up the exact same way in the outline, again, of the 5 paragraphs, but for your 3 main body paragraphs, instead of having to go out to Gale, go out to your book you're reading, whatever, and find evidence and find quotes, all you have to do is look at these 6 to 7 documents that are provided to you in the DBQ as evidence. That is what your evidence is. You're pulling quotes, you're pulling examples from these 6 or 7 documents that are given to you for the DBQ. So you don't need to do any outside research. For a DBQ, you don't need to Google, you don't need to find sources to cite. So it's actually making your life easier. You don't have to do any outside research except for reading through these 6 or 7 documents that you're given and understanding them and taking notes on them. So in our case, that is these documents here. Okay, so now let's walk through the specifics of each paragraph, sentence by sentence. So again, if you're struggling with figuring out, you got some writer's block of figuring out how do I even get started and what to write for this, again, go back to our magic formula, our essay outline here, and this will help you. So in your introduction, sentences 1 through 3 in a DBQ should be dedicated to giving some background information, just brief background information, who, what, where, when, about the topic that you're writing about. In this case, we're talking about the French Revolution, so just give a simple overview of what the French Revolution is all about. For example, the French Revolution was a movement in which, give the who, people in the third estate rose up against the government, against the monarchy, to try and make change, blah, blah, blah. So just give simple, basic overview of what happened in the French Revolution. And again, you don't even have to go out and find any crazy evidence online, because the DBQ gives it to you, basically everything you need to know, the background, in your historical context in step 1. So you shouldn't even have to go online and find crazy evidence, really. So now let's go back here. Once you finish giving that basic background information, you're going to conclude your introduction with your thesis statement here. The thesis statement should always be the last sentence of your introduction paragraph. And the thesis statement is where you answer the essay question. So our essay question is, what are the political, economic, and social causes of the French Revolution? And you're going to answer those and say, the political cause of the French Revolution is this, economics this, socials this, boom. Usually thesis statement's one sentence, but if it's a little bit over, that's okay. But try and keep it concise, because you're going to elaborate in your body paragraphs. Okay, so body paragraph 1, I tried to give you some sentence stems and examples, so it makes a little bit more sense. So our thesis statement, what we're talking about, political, economic, social causes. Body paragraph 1 is going to be dedicated to the political cause. So you always want to start any body paragraph with a topic sentence that says what this paragraph is about. So in this case, we're talking about political causes. So you're going to introduce. There were many political causes of the French Revolution. Some of them include, say what you're talking about in your paragraph. Now is time to actually give your evidence, which in this case, right, is the documents that you're using that you took notes on. No outside research on the internet, just the documents. So right, one political cause of the French Revolution seen in document 2 is this. Now you need to explain what this evidence means and why it's a good example of a political cause. Right? You can't just give a quote from the document and not explain it. So you could give your direct quote, but then say, this shows it's a political cause because people were mad at the government and wanted to make a change. And then rinse and repeat, right? So if you have another piece of evidence or another document that you're using, same thing, introduce it. Another political cause seen in document 4 is blah, blah, blah. Give the piece of evidence from the document and then explain what it means and why it connects to being a political cause of the revolution. Why did it make people want to have a revolution? And of course, you're doing the exact same things for the other body paragraphs, but just for economic and social causes. And then finally, last paragraph, paragraph 5 is your conclusion. Very easy. You're just restating your thesis. So again, you're saying simple. These are the political, economic, and social causes of the French Revolution. And then you'll conclude, your last sentence or two should be your thoughts on what do you think is the biggest or most important cause of the French Revolution and why. And that's it. You're done. You did it. Okay, so here is an example body paragraph that I have for you guys. So this one is about the political causes. Okay, so I have my topic sentence that is introducing what I'm going to be talking about in this body paragraph. So this is about, again, political causes. There were many political causes of the French Revolution. Some of them include resentment towards the monarchy's lavish spending and a desire for rights that are protected by the government. Boom. I said what I'm going to be talking about. I previewed my evidence. All right, so now I'm going to have a transition and introduce the first piece of evidence, aka the document that I'm talking about. So, one political cause seen in document 6 is the anger of people towards the king and queen. Okay, so I referenced the document. Now I need to explain what I mean by this. Okay, so here's my explanation. People were very poor, especially in the Third Estate. So seeing the lavish lifestyle of people like Marie Antoinette made people really angry towards the monarchy and want change. Document 6 shows how fancy and expensive Marie Antoinette dressed, while many normal citizens struggled to even put food on the table. Boom. I explained what I meant by this document and why it is a good example of a political cause, right? They're angry at the government. That's why they want a revolution. It's political. And then we got same thing if you have another piece of evidence, transition, introduce it, and then explain what it means. Okay. So let's take a look just to show you how I used this piece of evidence. All right, so I used document 6, which is our portrait of Marie Antoinette. Right, so maybe in my notes here, I said for political cause, people are angry at her. She's an example of the monarchy. She was very hated because they saw them as being, very self-centered, indulging in luxuries, building palaces at Versailles when there's a famine and debt in the country. So let's take another example. I'll go through one more document and how to interpret it and use it. So let's see, document 1. I use this as an example for an economic cause. So document 1, they're talking about, the poor people seem so poor. There's a lack of bread. We're hungry. The price of bread has risen above people's ability to pay. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Right? So this is clearly about economics because they're talking about being poor, not having money. The economy is bad and there's a famine. They're not able to pay for the bread. So I would put that in my notes here. And then if I were to go back into my essay outline for economics, right, I would go and I would explain. I would say there's a lot of economic causes of the French Revolution, such as people, my first example is people weren't able to afford basic things like bread. This is seen in document 1 when they say, let's see, what did they say here? Document 1, when they said, the poor people seem very poor indeed. The children are terribly ragged. The lack of bread is terrible, right? So you can quote that and then go back here, include that evidence, and then explain. This shows that the people were really poor and that it was a tough time and they were struggling financially. Therefore, people wanted a change in their government, a change in leadership to prevent this economic distress. And people were angry and wanted a revolution, right? So that's an example of how you can use some documents in your arguments. Okay, so I hope this was helpful for you guys. One last tip is once you've gone through and read all the documents and took your notes, it's probably a good idea to write down, okay, here for body paragraph 1, I'm going to, for politics, I'm going to use, documents 3 and 4 talked about politics. Let's say now I'm for economics, maybe documents 5 and 1 talked about economics. So plan ahead and note real quick, like, okay, these are the documents I'm going to use for each body paragraph. And again, these documents are versatile. Some, right, there's 3 boxes here for a reason, because some have evidence that you can use for both economics and for both political or social. So you can use a document 1, and your body paragraph on politics, and you could use it in your body paragraph on economics, as long as you're making a coherent argument that makes sense for it. All right. So that is all. If you have questions, you can message me on Google Hangouts or email me. Feel free to share your essays with me over the weekend, and I can give you feedback. But you guys got this. Now you've got your magic formula, and SpongeBob is watching you and rooting for you.